Meet Dom. He's a 30-year-old electrician and he's been living in his converted van since April 2024. He's trying to save up enough money to buy a house and he's documenting his van life journey on his TikTok account, where he shares gratuitous shots of his unique experience. Until very recently, Dom was calling himself a homeless electrician, but that's not quite accurate. Dom's actually a landlord. And Dom's decided to come clean and come out as a landlord to his followers. He's usually based in Edinburgh, but he was in Bristol for work. So I headed to meet him and find out why on earth a landlord was choosing to live in his van. How did you end up living in a van?
After I left the armed forces in 2022, I then just entered the rental market. Rents in Edinburgh are pretty high, about £1,000 a month for including bills, for a single lad like me. Yeah, I just decided to save money by living in my van.
You haven't admitted to your audience yet that you are a landlord. Why not?
I make about £250 a month profit, which is the equivalent to like one or two days extra work a month. I thought if I just included that in my calculations, I could just demonstrate in an illustrative way how I'm saving for a house. So this is the bed here, as you can see. But one thing people do ask is how you fit in widthways. But I actually don't. I don't fit. So I have to lie diagonally like this when I'm on my own, which is all right. It's not too uncomfy.
How often are guests present?
How often? Well, I've had friends and then girls round. Often, not really. I mean, not as often as I'd like.
How do girls react when they find out you live in a van?
At first, I was kind of embarrassed to say, because it's like, what are you doing? You're 30. Go and start a family, bro. I bought the property when I was 26 years old, when I was serving in the armed forces. I had some savings, so I wanted to invest the money, and I bought a 3-bed property in Manchester. The tenants moved in December of 2020 for £650 a month. Estate agents were pushing for me to take the higher offers, but I was like, no, actually, I want to take the person who sees it as a home. And they're very good tenants, they're very hard working. So I don't have a kitchen area. I just use my camping stove. I just have a simple camping stove for normal cooking. I keep all my food and gas in here. So this I got from Decathlon. It's like a shower unit, but I use it as a tap and a shower. And then you just pump it, it holds the charge, and then you just, if that's the bowl there, you just put it in, wash up, and then empty out. But saying that, you can't get much of a good clean that way. So what I do is wash up where I can at friends, family houses, but also at work as well. Obviously most offices have kitchens and stuff. I have a house, I've got money in the house, so I was looking to sell the house and had in mind that maybe the tenants would be able to buy it. So I said to them, in January 2026, I'm thinking about putting this property on the open market. They said, no worries. I said, obviously, you're open to make an offer at any point until then. And they were like, yeah, we'd love to buy the house. It turned out a few weeks later, they're not in a position to buy. So I'm faced with this choice now. Do I evict them and take my money and buy my own property and not care what happens to them? Do I put their rent up so that I can make more money while they're living in it and exploit them? Clearly that's not something I want to do.
You are a landlord, but also you're at the mercy of the rental market in Edinburgh, and that has forced you to live in this van in a cold country, despite being a landlord and owning a home. That must be odd.
It is interesting to see it from that angle. I'm in a privileged position to be able to do this, live in a van, and it not feel too stressful.
You're quite unique in this country in that you are the age you are and you own a property. Do you have any advice to give aspiring homeowners?
I think the reason I got onto the ladder when some of my peers didn't, genuinely, is because of the time I served in the armed forces. I was in the armed forces for 6 years. Now, in the armed forces, we don't pay rent. We pay a small, tiny amount. This allowed me to save money. That when I joined the armed forces, rent at the time in the area I'd come from were probably £700 a month, maybe a bit more, including bills. So straight away there, I'm 700 quid a month. I'm saving 700 quid a month, ahead of my peers, people I've been to school with, college and stuff like that. So genuinely, that's the biggest thing. Unfortunately, that's not really advice I can give people, because not everyone can join the armed forces. Because people are struggling to save, because it's a cost of living crisis. And people are sick of being told not to buy avocado toast. I'm not advocating that. You can have what you need. But, do you know what I mean? There's nothing much to say other than I don't know that. My parents didn't own their house, but their house in '94 when I was born was worth 54 grand when I checked on the internet. At the time, I don't know what average salaries at the time were. It was maybe 15 grand, 20 grand a year. So you're talking, it was like house prices were like 2 to 3x what people's salaries were. Whereas now it's like they're 4, 5, 6x what people's annual salaries are. And it is crazy. So my tenants are a good example. Like both of them are working. I think he is full-time, his wife possibly part-time. But they're both working and they're not in a position to buy a property yet, which I think is just crazy. Like,
Did you always want to be a landlord?
yeah, initially I wanted to be like those on Homes Under the Hammer with like 5 or 10 properties. But actually, now that I've matured, it was 26 when I bought my first, now I'm 30. Now that I've matured, I've realised that I kind of agree with some of the points people make about how landlords don't really offer anything productive economically. They take an asset, which is already there, they happen to be lucky to have acquired, and then amass more wealth from its appreciation, which they don't really have anything to do with. It's to do with the supply shortage, which is aggravated by mismanagement by successive governments. So after I do sell this property, hopefully to my tenants, I won't be a landlord anymore.